Are we live? Hello, hello. We are back, people. Today we're gonna be doing, uh, what did I title the stream? Oh yeah, Miami Dolphins defensive. The expectations, what we're gonna expect on the defense this year. I think that's where most people have their question marks because we kind of know what to expect from the offense. I think everyone has their expectations. Things will change slightly, but overall, with a new defensive coordinator, really gonna go into this, talk about what I'm expecting from Weaver, go in by like the position groups, what I'm expecting to kind of see there. It should be fun. What's up, Cat for Life? How you doing? But yeah, because I've been reading about the a lot of this Mike McDonald scheme stuff because that's who was the defensive coordinator for the Ravens last year, and I think that's kind of where Weaver's gonna pull from, that defensive scheme type of thing. And then we'll kind of see like who the most important people are in the defense, kind of how they fit into it, and then yeah. So once people get in here, we'll like really deep dive into that stuff. Because sometimes it takes a second for this thing to get pushed out there for everyone to see. Because this, where I think it's a definitely, because the base defense is more of a 3-4, but they didn't play base that often. They actually played nickel 79% of the time last year in Baltimore, and their nickel was more of like a 4-3 overlook. You'll probably see, and like the Sealer playing as like the 3 tech, to the strong side, seeing like a Tier Tart playing as that 1 to 2Y type of player in this defense. And for like how they do like the gaps stuff up front, like they'll do like some like depending on the player, like certain players will 1 gap, certain players with 2 gap. Yeah, nickel will definitely be our base. Where nickel is base for pretty much everyone nowadays. So like I'm not gonna go too focused on the base side of the defense. There is like with their edge rushers, I think in Baltimore they called one of the edges the rush guy, who is like your size, speed, length guy, not going to drop into coverage too often. And then they have a Sam linebacker as a guy who is, more capable of dropping, that type of thing, but also mostly rushing the passer. They didn't blitz a lot in Baltimore, so I'm not expecting a ton of blitzing. Like they'll bring 5 at times. I think they're like 25th in like blitz percentage. And when they do blitz, they still end up bringing 4 a lot of the time. So, but they'll like, mix up who ends up coming. I think the biggest key, really focusing on what this defense is, its versatility is super important, and kind of like how for the offense it's very important with all the pre-snap movement and stuff. That's kind of what it is for the defense. I think that's what Weaver's going to really bring, that mix things up compared to what Fangio did last year. Because I think Fangio, everything kind of looked the same and they didn't move people around a lot. I think you're going to see a lot of movement pre-snap. So having guys who can disguise. And that's why I think 2 people are very important, because in the Baltimore defense, it was Kyle Hamilton and Roquan Smith. And to me, playing that Roquan Smith role is going to be Jordan Brooks. So and I think Jordan Brooks is going to be really good for this defense. He's not Roquan Smith level, but he's a guy that you can like bring up to the line of scrimmage pre-snap, line him up over the A gap, over the center, over the B gap, whatever. Show him like he's going to blitz. And there will be times he does blitz, but then also have the capability to drop back into coverage. The Ravens ran mostly zone. They were a heavy zone team. They will throw in man from time to time, but I think they were 70% zone. So, a lot of zone. You need to have safeties on the back end that can cap. And then I think someone said, you expect Ramsey to be the Hamilton role. I do, actually. I think you'll see Holland do some of that stuff too, obviously. I think, there's a little versatility there. But I think Ramsey is going to move around a ton, which is huge for this defense. I think they kind of limited Ramsey for what he could do last year. And I think having 2 safeties that play on the back end is very important. I really only have 2 safeties you can trust with Holland and Boyer right now. So I think having a guy like Ramsey that can move all around, disguise him, because with Hamilton, they played him everywhere, man. He was strong safety. He was the slot. He would come down, play as a linebacker. He'd blitz. He'd play man coverage. He plays zone. I think having Ramsey and moving him around to disguise and be that sort of, chess piece for your defense, I think that's what really excites me the most next season. I think him and Brooks are very, very important. I'm excited to see Brooks. He's such an upgrade over Baker, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm excited to see the combo of Brooks and Long, because I do think like they're similar. Like I think the Baltimore linebackers were better overall with Roquan and Patrick Queen, comparing Brooks to David Long. But I do think they're similar types of players. I think Brooke is a Roquan, like kind of player with his size, speed, athleticism, his instincts. He's in that same vein of player. And then David Long is more of that will get downhill, shoot gaps, can blitz from time to time stuff. That's another thing that he has to be able to do. It's kind of where I get excited for Long in this system. Not as much in coverage though, but we'll see how that plays out. And then we'll talk about the defensive fronts. I think for this team, when it comes to like defensive linemen in this new system, they're going to rotate a lot. In Baltimore, they had like a 5-man rotation. Dolphins did not have I think they had probably the least rotation out of anyone in the NFL, I would guess, because I think Wilkins played the most amount of snaps out of any D tackle, and I think Sealer played like 4th. So they played a crazy amount of snaps. You're going to see a lot of pressures are created in that Baltimore-style defense by using stunts. So there's going to be a lot of stunts. That's how they get after you. It's basically they run zone on the back end. And the reason they were able to create so much pressure was more of the back end players. So I think having linebackers that can cover like Jordan Brooks, having Ramsey to be able to disguise coverage just to make a quarterback hold onto that ball for a split second longer. And then you have the stunts working up front, with your edge guys, the defensive tackles. They like athletic people. So, I mean, Sealer will do good, Tier Tart, kind of expecting them to be the top 2. And then we'll see how it ends up playing out around that with the other guys they added. I'm not sure like anyone's going to replace Wilkins per se, but there will be people. It's going to be like a group effort, overall. And you have your will linebacker shooting gaps. It'll be like things like that. And then maybe you drop an edge into coverage, but they're still end up bringing 4, maybe 5 at the most. But I'm expecting still a lot of zone. I think the thing with that Mike McDonald defense that Anthony Weaver is going to bring in, it's not like they're doing anything crazy post-snap with their coverages. Like they'll bring some, unique blitzes from time to time, but it's still like, your pretty basic coverages. It's all the pre-snap stuff that really throws you off, and that's what I really like. Don't make things so easily readable pre-snap, because that makes the life on the QB so much easier and on the offensive coordinator. So I like how much they disguise the stuff pre-snap, and having versatile players is super important for that. And let's see what else. Athletic defensive linemen are important. I think that's kind of why you see they were adding such like really good athletes at every spot, because it's all about being able to cross people's faces, work these stunts. You don't need to be the greatest, individual pass rusher winning your one-on-ones in this system, which obviously they still have. So like there'll be times, you'll get those guys who are very like, you want Jalen Phillips in a true one-on-one, he'll dominate. I still have high expectations for Phillips this season, even though he's coming off the injury. I don't have as high expectations for Chubb this season. Just thinking of, I think his injury is going to affect him a little bit longer term. But still have high expectations for Phillips. I think Chop will feed in this system with how they could use him in multiple different spots. I think he'll be huge for that like versatility and the disguising of stuff pre-snap, because he can also do some dropping, which is nice. And I think just like if you look at it from like a macro view, like my big expectations, like I think early on in the season, I wouldn't be surprised if early on, the defense, usually when a team is coming in with the new system, the defense isn't like standing out like anything super crazy. It takes them a while to get into it. So I'm not like super high, but I do think by the end of the season, I think the defense, if healthy, will be better than what it was last season. I'm not expecting like a huge boost, but I think if the Dolphins offense stays near the top and is able to perform, later in the season, and you have the defense step up, because I think overall, when you look at this group compared to last, I think you probably feel pretty good about the linebackers being upgraded. I think the secondary, you feel good about being like at least slightly upgraded, maybe not an insane upgrade, but still pretty solid overall. And then your edge room, when healthy, is upgraded. D-line isn't upgraded, from the top, but you have more depth now. So being able to rotate people in and out. So it really just comes down to, using the zone schemes, having linebackers that can really control that second level, take away, those instant reads for quarterbacks to get the ball out quickly, and then having those twists and stunts up front to get after the quarterbacks, which the Dolphins have some very explosive players up there. So being able to create those sacks on the back end. And it also, like, one thing I noticed is it looks very complicated, but is actually, pretty basic, easy for the defense to understand, but maybe harder for the offense to see. Just got to be disciplined overall. Yeah, so, and then, versatile safety is important, which the Dolphins have Ramsey to kind of fill that Kyle Hamilton role as that corner slot, but also Holland, who has some versatility, who has played all over in his college career, played, the middle of the field, played down in the slot at times. We're just hyping you up for your player deck downs in a pocket. Hey, I appreciate that, Dolphins Realtor. Ravens ran 1 D tackle 50% of the time and 2 D tackles another 40%. It will be Steeler and a full rotation. Yeah, it'll be a huge rotation. I think that's kind of where people have huge question marks. I'm excited. I think that's one where I'm excited to see like who ends up, really taking over after the fact, because obviously Steelers can be number 1. I think Tart will be the number 2 currently for what they have. But I'm excited to see like who kind of steps up and, because I'm not sure right now, and there are different types, because like Benito Jones is more of like a 1-2-eye type of guy. Jonathan Harris, who they added, is more of like a 5-tech player. Neville Gallimore is more of like a 3, can play some 1. Really hope someone steps up to play corner. Yeah, we can talk about corner. I didn't really talk about corner too much. They play a lot of zone. That makes me feel very good about Kendall Fuller, obviously. I think Kendall Fuller has been very good the last couple of seasons. I think he'll come into the system, fit in just fine. He could even move around some. He has experience playing in the slot, so if they ever needed that too. But I think he'll be like your number 2 corner, play on the outside for the majority of the time, while Ramsey moves around. And if they want to play Ramsey on the outside, depending on the matchup, that's why I think it's scheme specific. I think if the matchup is like their best receiver is an outside guy, they might just have Ramsey play full outside, playing on that guy, the whole time. And then you might see that game. Holland is the one more moving around, playing multiple spots. And then if Ramsey's in the slot, I think I would prefer to see Cam Smith be that 3rd corner that plays on the outside. And if it's the opposite and Ramsey's playing on the outside, I'd rather have Kohu be your 3rd corner playing the nickel. So I think a lot of guys are going to see some, work back there. Yeah, Ramsey, Fuller, Cam. Yeah, hopefully, I really want to see Cam this season. I still have pretty high expectations for him. Yeah, I think defensive players want to play for Weaver. I think they pick up his system quickly. Yeah, I think, clearly the whole thing with Fangio, they weren't feeling too, like Fangio's not a bad defensive coordinator. I think clearly he didn't want to be there, and clearly the Dolphins players didn't want to play for him either. So having Weaver definitely seems like a more likable guy, a guy that can like get through to his players, demand their respect too, which I think is nice. And then just getting, after it, let me see, boom. But yeah, what did I write down? Yeah, McDonald, they run more of like a 4-down over front. That just means like usually your 3-tech is aligning to the strength. If it's an under, your 3-tech is aligning to the weak side. But yeah, that's kind of what they're doing with McDonald's in Baltimore. A lot of simulated pressures. They blitz from the strong side if they do blitz, and then you see like maybe your weekend drop. I talked about it in my Jordan Brooks video where like they would have Roquan on the line of scrimmage, like he's going to blitz and then drop back, and he has the athleticism to do that. Not a lot of linebackers capable, and it's also something I noticed on Jordan Brooks' tape that he showed in coverage, even to getting back to even like a match a receiver. It was like Rondell Moore in that video, and I think that's why I think Jordan Brooks and Jalen Ramsey are kind of keys to me for this defense, because I feel pretty good about the edges when the edge room when it's healthy, even if Phillips and Barrett are taking time to get back. I think Weaver, even with maybe not the best group, with the D tackles and the edges, could still get those simulated pressures with his play calls. But the way to get that is with having guys that can, hold up in coverage and do the versatile thing. So that's why I think it's very important that Brooks and Ramsey, do exactly what they're expecting. Do you think Perry makes the team at safety? I think there's a chance. I probably wouldn't bet on it right now, because I don't know how many safeties they're going to keep on the roster. Plus, I think it just depends if they still sign one, because I do think post June 1st, safety is one thing they could still sign. I think if they sign a safety, I wouldn't expect one of them to. I just think it's going to be tough for the UDFAs this year to make the roster. I would like to see, one or two of them make it. Some guys I like for sure. And plus, it kind of also comes down to special teams for him. I think Fangio's a good coach and has roles, but they weren't as good as because of his relationship issues. Yeah, Fangio is definitely a good defensive mind. It wasn't going to work out here. I think it could still work out in Philly. I think because he clearly wants to be there in Philly. I think, sometimes it makes a huge difference. If you just, sometimes, when you have your jobs and you don't want to be there, it just, your whole attitude changes, and then how you treat other people can change too. And I think players kind of saw that. Moving Needham to safety reduced Perry's chance. Yeah, and if Needham's full time. Plus, I think you could see. I still think it's a possibility of Ethan Bonner doing both corner and safety stuff. And I just feel like that final DB spot is for an Ethan Bonner type. Someone, that they have a little more versatility within the team. How do you think Poyer compares to Elliott at safety? I think overall, I wouldn't say it's I think people have said Poyer's a big upgrade over Elliott. I don't know if I agree with that. I think it's a decent upgrade. I'd probably prefer Poyer as a player right now. For just a 1 year thing, I would prefer Poyer. I do think he did lose a step. He brings some versatility and definitely smart football instincts on the back end. I thought Elliott did a fine job last year. He just wasn't anything spectacular. But I think Poyer within this system, he has a lot of experience playing in zone. He also played a lot of dime linebacker last year and looked pretty good as a linebacker. So if they ever wanted Poyer to be the guy that could move around and play multiple spots, if they just want to do that with multiple people, that always helps. Being very multiple, I think that's very important for this style of defense. Having guys that can play multiple spots up front and on the back end just helps with all the disguising and things that they want to do pre-snap. I think Weaver's may need him to safety to keep Bonner at corner. Yeah, I think I just have a feeling at some point, it might not be this season, they're gonna try to give Bonner some snaps at safety. Even though I think it should be one of those things where they should not move him to safety full time. I think he is a corner, but I think that would probably be best for him for making the roster, having that kind of versatility, kind of like what Nick Needham's done. Because I don't know if Nick Needham's just gonna be a full time safety. I could still see him playing some nickel and things like that. I have Poyer better than Elliott, which is tough because I'm a big Elliott fan. Yeah, I have Poyer over Elliott too, but I just don't think it's as big. I think, I was on a podcast last night, The List, and they asked me, they asked me a bunch of questions, obviously, but they asked me, what do you think the biggest disappointment would be to the fans, as a player? And I said Poyer because I just think people probably have big expectations for him. But I do think he'll be solid overall. I just don't know if he's going to be a lead or anything. That's why I'm I still want to pick up a safety because Poyer's a 1 year kind of rental thing. I think Holland, he's going to get paid big money. I still think you need a third safety within this system that can play significant snaps because they ran a lot of 3 safety last year because they would have I think, the thing is if they have Ramsey play the Hamilton role, they don't need to run 3 safety sets, but they had they ran a lot of 3 safety sets because Hamilton would go down and play within the slot and stuff too. Poyer played more than any of our safeties last year. I don't know if I said that it was playing time. I think I said I was talking about him as a player. I think people have super high expectations for him being the player he used to be. I think he's still pretty solid. I was more saying he's that Elliott tackle against the Cowboys was great. Yeah, that was an excellent play. Let's see. Anything else that I really wanted to dive into this game? Who did I not talk about yet? Talked about the edge group. We do need you need to have a big D tackle, and I think that's why they brought in a Tier Tart. They needed someone that can really be a bigger D tackle in the middle that's still pretty athletic, someone that can have some movement skills. So I do think Tart could find some success in this system because I think that's something that's kind of been important in that Baltimore system, having a big D tackle that's good against the run, but also has enough athleticism to be a mover too when they want to work those stunts. So I think I think Sealer's gonna feast too, because Sealer is really good on like stunts and stuff. Love to see Holland return more unplayed under Flores, aka Baltimore used Hamilton. Yeah, I think Holland will see some of the Hamilton role too. I just think it's probably ideal for us to use Ramsey. Yeah. So yeah, just expect a lot of the pre-snap movement, a lot of disguising of your coverages, ability to be multiple up front. Especially early on, I'm expecting them to be pretty rotation heavy. Pretty much the whole year actually up front be rotation heavy, because even when like Phillips and Chubb come back, I think you'll see them kind of ease into that role, and they have guys like they brought in Chop and Shaq Barrett, who will I think all play a role all year long, which I think is nice to have multiple guys. It always helps to keep those people fresh. Yeah. I like Deshaun Hand as well. Deshaun Hand also, I mean, all those D tackles after Sealer and Tart, like I don't know if any of them are like locks to make the roster, so I could see any of them making it really. Like I don't know who they prefer currently right now. I'm guessing, like guys like Gallimore, Deshaun Hand, Benito Jones, Jonathan Harris, because they all saw playing time last year for their respective teams. So I think, they want guys that have experience, playing. But they're all kind of different roles, so we'll see what they end up valuing in the end. Dun, dun. So again, Poyer was second in tackles for Buffalo last year, played more games than any of our DBs. Yeah, I mean, I like Poyer. I think he's going to be solid for the team. I think getting him... Honestly, I thought Poyer looked at his best last year as like as a in-the-box type of player. He looked good as like playing down as a linebacker. But that's why I kind of wanted a third safety, because I would love to have a guy that can maybe play it more on the back end also, just because I think they're going to play some 3 safety sets where you have Ramsey on the outside, then maybe you have Holland playing in the box one play, or in as your nickel, or then Poyer's down at dime linebacker. It just helps with versatility. But yeah, Poyer's definitely going to go out there and play hard, and he brings a veteran presence. I heard some positive stuff about Tyndall and OTAs. I know it's shorts and helmets, but any good news is good. Yeah, this is probably Tyndall's like last chance, I would say. Usually your third year is your like he'll still have chances after this year too. But I would say this is like his real probably with other teams, but like his last chance to really prove himself. Because I do like what the Dolphins have with Jordan Brooks, David Long, and I liked Anthony Walker, bringing him in as a free agent. He has some good stuff. Yeah, June 1st will be big. That's only like a week away, too. What's up, Sawyer? But yeah. McDonald's scheme, yes. So it'll be interesting to see how everyone like fits into their own roles, but I do think Jalen Ramsey is going to play that Kyle Hamilton role more so than Javon Holland. Tyndall heading to the practice squad, in my opinion, wouldn't surprise me. Because Duke will make the team as like depth linebacker, also practice squad, or not practice squad, special teams guy. And then depends who else in that room that they like, but definitely the top 4, those 4 will for sure make the roster. And then it'll be like a fight between Tyndall and everyone else. Okay. I just don't have much faith in Poyer because of his injuries and age. Yeah. Yeah, he's on the older side, and I think he's lost a step, but I don't think he's struggled with too many injuries, which a lot of players in Buffalo have. And yeah, so here's McDonald wasn't super blitz heavy in Baltimore, which I think Weaver will kind of bring. I think, they were 25th in blitz percentage rate at 21.9%. The average is 24.3%, which, obviously is not a crazy difference, but the Ravens did lead the NFL in sacks last year, even, not blitzing a whole ton. And it wasn't like their guys up front were like purely dominating, because a lot of those were like schemed up pressure. So that's where I kind of, get excited. I think him being able to push Holland will be huge, yeah. I still think safety's like that one position I want to add to, because I think safety play is really important coming from Baltimore, because they kind of like always had like 2 guys on the back end to really just cap. the defense, because they will play like a lot of split safety looks. Like we'll see cover 3, cover 1, that stuff too, but we'll see a lot of like quarters, cover 6, whether it's zone match. Even though I think we'll see a lot of pure zone too, so like just reading the QB's eyes, being able to make it an extra split second for your guys to get there, which the Dolphins have guys who can get there. If Phillips is healthy and Chubb is healthy, the Dolphins have a lot of guys who can get there off the edge. And then they also bring, Brooks and Long are also pretty good when they're brought on the blitz. So guys who can line up, near the line will be nice. Cloud 6, yeah. Yeah, when I remember I was watching the Ravens last year for the preview with the Dolphins game, and it was like every drive was different. Like I was watching the Niners game that they had, and which is huge because Shanahan's system just terrorizes the league, but that Ravens defense was dominant versus that Shanahan system. They did it against, I think the only team they might have struggled with was the Rams. The Rams did pretty good against them, and that's kind of that same style of system. But against everyone else, like against us, against the Niners, they had really good success. And one thing I noticed was like every drive was something completely different with their coverage. Like one drive was pretty heavy with cover 1, and next drive pretty heavy with cover 3, and then you saw cover 6. Good job, like a lot of disguising too. Then playing quarters for 3 plays in a row, then switching it up. They ran a lot of stuff, which wasn't quite the case under Fangio. It was either Dolphins, obviously under Fangio, you run a lot of zone match coverages, and it was either just cover 3 or the quarter half stuff, or half quarter whatever, cover 6, cover 8. And it wasn't a lot of disguising either with those coverages, which is. Do you think the new kickoff rule will cause teams to keep more defensive players, more athletic body type with speed? Maybe. Probably like maybe a little bit. I wouldn't be too surprised, but special teams has always been pretty important to teams. So I think maybe you could see people prioritizing special teams a bit more, but I think that's something the Dolphins kind of did because they brought in Siren Neal as for the defensive back room from the Bills, who I expect to make the roster as special teams guy. And didn't the Dolphins also bring in another? They brought in like Cam Brown or something, who was also a special teams guy, I believe. I think he played for the Giants. Dolphins brought him in, and he's a linebacker. So Dolphins brought in like multiple special teams players this offseason, so could be the case. They also have Duke Riley, who's a pretty good special teams guy. It will be interesting to see how teams kind of structure their rooms. Yeah, they relied on like safety play is very, very important. That's why I think having guys like Holland and like the Ravens had Hamilton, which was a guy they could put anywhere. But I think it was also important that they had guys on the back end who were just disciplined players. You guys that back there playing, in those, whatever, whether it's 6, 8, 4, guys that, can keep things in front of you, can cap the defense, that have a good understanding of where to be. Because when you have what the Ravens did with their linebackers and their ability with like Kyle Hamilton, they could cover so much range in that second level that it kind of made, life easier on the safeties, where they could maintain their depth, play over the top, not get beat deep a ton. So that's why, that Jordan Brooks pickup, I think, is huge. 60 Ts, 9 linebackers, 10 DBs. I was like, 9 linebackers. So I'm like, oh, you're talking about the edges too, yeah. I wonder if they'll keep 6. Yeah, I could see them keeping 6. They could keep 5 though too. Just depends how it all ends up playing out. 10 DBs, yeah, I would keep 10. I like keeping extra DBs, especially guys that are capable of playing both. That's why I kind of want to, do some cross training stuff. Okay, is there anything I didn't talk about when it comes to the defense that? This like Raven style defense that McDonald was running, they had a lot of success last year. Were probably like the best you know. But I think they've been running this style of defense for a while now, even before McDonald came. I think McDonald just did a really good job kind of perfecting it. We kept 5 last year with McWilkins playing 90% of the snaps. Yeah. Interesting. But also, they could still keep 5 and just have people in a heavy rotation. Because I think they only did like a 5-man rotation in Baltimore. I just don't know. I don't know off the top of my head if they kept 5 or 6. So it'll be interesting. Plus, I think the Dolphins could want to keep someone extra on the offense side of the ball. Because they have kept a lot of like running backs since McDaniel's gotten here. I don't know how many they'll keep this year, but let's see. Go here. Yeah. I'd probably be happy keeping 5 as well, because I get why they would keep 6 for, the extra body, but I just like, I'd rather probably keep a player I like more somewhere else, because I don't love the defensive tackles, that we have. I just think having a lot of bodies is good, though. Just having, a nice little rotation. Plus, I think they could probably bring some of those guys back that they would get rid of. Do you think the scheme is better for Cater? Hold on, I can't see the other part. It's like blocked by this thing. Hold on. Roll is best. Okay, there I got it. Okay. Well, what roll is best is the nickel. I do think a lot of Cater's like bad play initially last year. Hold on, why am my chat's getting kind of fucked here? Okay, there we go. No, there. I think a lot of the Cater's like a lot of like his worst games, like that really, really kind of tanked his stock, or where they had like played him on the outside. So I think playing him on the outside to begin with anyways is just a horrible decision. I actually think the games where he like purely played nickel, he had some good games. He had some games that weren't as good, but he definitely looked way stronger as a nickel. So he is a nickel guy only, in my opinion. I do think this defense is easier on the defensive backs, in the sense like it's easier to run. So I do think it will probably help him. I think, at times Fangio's defense kind of, made life harder on the DBs. So I think it should make it easier mentally on him. And I just think he's still a solid level, especially for a UDFA. Like, because I feel like he got a lot of hate last year. I feel like Fangio put him in bad, like that Buffalo game, the first one. I feel like Fangio put him in a really rough spot, and he did not play well at all. But Fangio was not doing him any favors, giving him one-on-ones with Stephon Diggs, and he played on the outside. So I think having him purely as a nickel is important for his skill set. And I still think for like a UDFA that I still feel pretty good about him. The initial 53 this year will depend heavily on if, yeah. I think injuries in general, because you never know. Because like last year I know they kept Jeff Wilson on the initial 53, and then they put him on, one of those injury lists. Can't remember which off the top of my head, but it depends what happens all around with injuries. I'm not hearing good things about Cater, even though he was orange jersey. Well, I don't know. I mean, I haven't really heard much at all. I mean, it's only been like a couple OTA practices, so I'm not putting like too much. I mean, if he got the orange jersey, I mean, I'm imagining that he at least had a pretty good day, at least. And who's had the orange jersey so far? Like him, Austin Jackson, David Long. Is that it? So I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. Which DB has the most sacks this year? Ramsey, probably. I think they're going to move Ramsey around a lot. Ramsey is a really good blitzer. And I think getting him in the slot and allowing him to actually utilize his full skill set. I really don't like just having Ramsey just full time lined up on the outside as a corner. Like, I don't like how his usage was last year. Like, he obviously understands that Fangio scheme and is very good at it, but I don't think it brings out like his fullest potential of a skill set. Because I remember watching Ramsey back at Florida State, and he played a lot of safety at Florida State. He had his his years playing corner, but that guy is someone who could do anything for your defense. So, and I think with how the Ravens utilized Kyle Hamilton last year, I think that's kind of like the ideal way to get the most out of Ramsey. If Holland is used right, it will be him. Right? Possibility. But I don't know. I don't know if they're going to blitz safeties a ton. I feel like, I mean, Holland could be, if Holland plays that Hamilton role, even though I'm anticipating it to be more Ramsey, which I think it probably will be a bit of both, then yeah, Holland could lead the team in sacks because allowing that guy to get after the quarterback in that position is definitely helpful. Yeah. Any more questions? Because I think I talked about the defensive expectations. I expect them to be like, I would say slightly better than they were last year. I think overall, talent wise, obviously there's some like D tackle at the top. I think they got worse, but I think in other positions they got better. Edge overall, if Phillips and Chubb come back and are completely healthy, at least by the end of the season, and they're playing healthy, I think edge got way better. But if they're not healthy, then it's probably kind of a wash, I think off-ball linebacker, they got better. And I think this Ravens system is kind of this Ravens defensive scheme has been very successful in this NFL in recent times. And I think if Weaver, accomplishes it to the max, of what he wants to get, at least for a first season, I think it could be better than what the Dolphins had last season from Fangio. Even though I think Fangio is a very good defensive mind, I don't think the Dolphins players were bought in. And I also think Fangio wasn't really bought into being here either. So I'm expecting the defense overall to be better. I think the offense, expectation-wise, we're still looking, Dolphins were still the number one last year. I think you want them to be stronger at the end of the year. That's kind of, and I feel like, we've seen enough of the Dolphins offense to pretty much know kind of what we're expecting McDaniel to run. We have a few pieces added here that I think will help them too, but really focusing on the defenses. I think the defense will look a lot different, but overall, I think success-wise, they'll be a little bit better. Hopefully. Maybe not at the start of the year. I think the start of the year, I think you could see a similar rise of how the defense was last year, coming into the system, new to the system. They kind of had a slow start to the year. The offense was carrying. And then by the end of the year, the defense really stepped up and made some big plays. For the most part, they had their struggle games still from time to time, but it wasn't as often. Any chance our 5th rounder beats out the 1st rounder? About Kamara? I wouldn't be surprised because Kamara is a pretty old rookie too. He's in Chop, I wouldn't be surprised if Kamara sees a lot of playing time early. I wouldn't say necessarily beat out, but I wouldn't be surprised if because also it depends on Phillips and Chubb's health, obviously. But I wouldn't be surprised if Kamara actually has some decent success for a first, a 5th round rookie. And maybe even has better stats than Chop per se. That would not surprise me because I feel like he's a pretty pro-ready player, Kamara is. I think Chop's pro-ready as well, but I think he has a super high ceiling where he still has to develop some certain things. How do you feel about off-ball linebacker depth if we lose Brooks or Long? I like Anthony Walker, so I like that they brought in him as a depth guy. His film surprised me. I think he has injury issues though, so that's kind of concerning. I think that's probably where you're most concerned with your off-ball linebacker room is injuries. Because Long was healthy last year, which is great for him because he's had a history of injuries. I know Brooks tore his ACL in 2022, so now he should be back to full strength, which is a good thing. Fully back. And I think, as I talked about, Brooks is so important to this team. So important. I think second most important player on this defense after Ramsey. Not saying he's the second best, but I think he's the second most important for this defense's success next year. But yeah. And then Duke Riley last year, he's, I guess, for depth wise, I'm fine with it, but he's not a guy you want playing a lot of snaps. He had that Ravens game was so bad. The other games he had to play, he actually didn't do that bad. Like against Dallas, he wasn't that bad. And I think the other game against Washington, where Jerome was hurt, he didn't play that bad. But his game versus Baltimore was so bad. I'm like, I don't want to see him playing, significant snaps again. He's fine as your fourth linebacker. He's a good special teams guy. I think he's also brings in, pretty good vibes and stuff. I love Kamara's attitude. Yeah. I feel like Kamara would not surprise me at all if he came in and was successful right away. He feels like that kind of player to be like a very instantly successful player. I don't think his ceiling's super high. Like, I don't think he's the type of guy that's going to be developed to become way better than he was in college. But I do think he has a pretty high floor. Yeah. I think it was just that Baltimore game. I think that Baltimore game absolutely destroyed Riley's like rep within the fan base. Because the other games I remember thinking like, oh wow, Riley's actually, I know PFF graded him very highly in those other games before the Baltimore one. And I actually remember thinking, I'm like, I don't agree with how high PFF rated him because they were rating him like 90 plus or whatever their grading system is. But I was like thinking, I'm like, he's playing pretty well. But that Baltimore game was rough. But to be fair, that Baltimore game was rough for a lot of people. And it was rough for a lot of teams, not the Dolphins. Yeah. The initial the 53 is very interesting to me this year. I feel like it can go in so many different directions. Like I feel like usually there's a pretty like good idea. I have a good idea of most spots what's going to be for the most part, but there's like almost a battle at every spot that I'm like that could go either way, honestly. It wouldn't surprise me. And that's just like that's some starting spots or like depth spots to fight for that like final spot in the roster. Yeah. And then we talked about the D line, a lot of inside stunts, like a lot of stunts. Not expecting them to like bring a ton of blitzes, but a lot of stunts with the D line, the edges. That's why you need athletic guys. Steelers very, very good at being that crash guy. I also think you could see, and I've talked about it with Chop Robinson. He'll be used in that way too, on the interior and like the obvious pass rushing reps. I know Baltimore really feasted on like the younger quarterbacks last year. They they got a lot of their sacks against the less experienced players. But yeah, we'll see how it all ends up playing out. Right, last year initial 53 was 27 offense, 23 defense. Is it happening again? I can't see it. I'm thinking an actual 20-25 split this year. Yeah, that's why I think I said earlier that McDaniel tends to lean with the offense. Yeah, I think it would most likely be closer this year. I think, well, the reason it was 27-23 initially, I believe, was they kept Jeff Wilson and then cut McKinley, if I'm not mistaken. But then they put Jeff Wilson on one of the injury lists, and then they brought McKinley back. So it kind of ended up being more 26-24. I expect more of an even split. It could be 26-24. But I think more likely to be even and less likely to be 27-23. But I would have to like really look over it. I also think with like the new rule, you could see them only keeping 2 quarterbacks this year, which would be another position they go away from. It just depends because receiver, tight end, running back is going to be tough. Do they want to keep 4 running backs? Because they have a fullback, so they have that fullback, that extra spot that a lot of teams don't have. Do they want to keep 4 running backs, or do they keep 3? Do they want to keep 4 tight ends this year, or do they just keep 3? And then you probably just see them keep 6 receivers, but there's a lot of guys in that receiver room that maybe they fall in love with Taj Washington and they don't want to get rid of him. And then do they keep 9 or 10 offensive linemen? Which if I was going to keep an extra body on the offensive line, I would go with O-line. I've said it before. But they cut Croft initially and brought him up. We kept 26 almost all season. Yeah, so I'm guessing either 26-24 or 25-25. I still don't think they should have cut. Wait, did they only keep 2 tight ends initially? I still think they should have kept Elijah Higgins personally. I know they probably they got Ryan. I know they cut Ryan Hayes too, but they got Ryan Hayes back. I believe Hayes was on the practice squad, so he's still around. I still don't think they should have cut Elijah Higgins. I think they should have kept him around and tried to make that work. But yeah, I think we should keep 10 O line. I think if you're going to keep that extra body, instead of being a receiver or a tight end or a running back, I'd rather it be 10 O line. Yeah, that surprised me they only kept 2. Like, I would have kept, if they were going to keep Julian Hill, I would have just kept Elijah Higgins too. Because I think you could have got Croft back if you really wanted one with more experience pretty much at any time. It wasn't like Croft was anything special. I would have rather just taken the chances because I think Higgins played snaps for the Cardinals last year and he struggled early. But towards the end of the season, I'm pretty sure for Arizona, he actually started showing some promise. And he was kind of a developmental guy that you're moving from receiver to tight end. So I would have liked to keep him. But any chance we get the guard from the Bucks? Oh yeah, you're because they drafted Graham Barton, right? And you're thinking, yeah, I've heard rumors they might release him, right? Or did that happen? Is that what just happened or something? Because of money or stuff like that. I still think interior O line and safety. That's when June 1st hits. I think those are all up for grabs. But yeah, I think they would with keeping Brooks over Higgins on the initial 53. Yeah. What are you talking about, man? I believe I am talking about football. We were talking about the 53-man roster. Trying to gauge this question. Are you like you just coming in here and asking me what we're talking about, or are you seeing being like, am I just talking gibberish right now? Is that what you're implying? It's fine. I don't even know what I just said now. It's all out of my brain. But yeah, I understood why they kept Brooks. I wonder if they'd keep Brooks again this offseason and they go with the 4 running backs. But they'd probably keep Wilson over him. But who knows with injuries, like last year with the Jeff had that injury. Yeah, any questions? I just got here. Okay. Yeah, we went over the we went over the defense a lot. We went over like the whole defense, talking about Jalen Ramsey playing the Kyle Hamilton role, Jordan Brooks being super important, playing in that Roquan Smith role. They're kind of the keys to the defense, in my opinion, with how successful they are. The versatility that this defense is going to bring with Weaver coming from Baltimore. It's a lot of pre-snap movement, disguising. The coverages themselves aren't super, like advanced or anything. It's nothing crazy. But, the stuff they're doing pre-snap makes the QBs, hold the ball onto a little bit more. And then a lot of stunts up front. Okay, let me see. Do we sign Tannehill and cut White and Skyler a role with only 2 QBs? I think it depends on the price, but I would rather have Tannehill than Mike White and Skyler. And maybe people are split about that because they have their views of Tannehill, but Tannehill as a backup, not that bad. I think wouldn't be that bad either in this system. I don't know if he'd come back though. You think Tannehill would come back? And I would roll with 2 QBs with that new practice squad rule, right? Or the new, you can like bring it up from the practice squad your QB that you want, like as many times as possible now. We won't cut Skyler. We will assume he won't be swiped from the practice squad. I don't know. I feel like he could be swiped from the practice squad, but I don't think it's a guarantee. Like, I don't feel like Skyler's shown anything crazy where it's like, we gotta, keep him or he's gonna get swiped. But I don't know if I'm as high on Skyler as some people. But I do understand why they're keeping him around, trying to develop him. But he was kind of an old rookie. Like, he's like the same age as Tua. Or something. Jalen Waddle is a top 10 receiver. People just don't know that because Tyreek Hill is on the team, so he doesn't get to fully showcase as much as he can. But I think if you put Waddle on a team where he got to be the clear number 1, he would show why he is a top 10 receiver very easily in this league. I think situation very matters a lot for people, but like if you were restarting the league, I would take Waddle in the top 10 of the receivers personally. Ryder, do you have a way too early 53 at trying to see your last couple cuts? I'm probably gonna do a stream just like going over like each position group and then who I think makes the roster for the position group, and then by the end I'll do like a full 53. I think it's just too early now for me to do that because there's so many factors that play into it. I could do it like I could try to do it off the top of my head, but it's kind of tough. I don't have the thing in front of me. I want to know how the fuck Eli Apple was starting over Cam Smith. Me too, man. But I can tell you his name was Vic Fangio. Never gave Cam a shot. And I would have definitely given Cam a shot. I would have given Ethan Bonner a shot over Eli Apple personally. June 2nd, any chance we use the 19 million? I don't know if it will be right after June 1st, but I do expect them to use some of that 19 million for sure. They obviously have to use some of it to sign the draft picks. And then they have to, I think they're going to sign at least one guy that's like going to make the roster. They could sign multiple people that will be like camp bodies, but I think they'll sign a safety or a guard, maybe both. Joe, don't really care. He gets pushed on the practice squad. We have Hardison. Yeah, Hardison is a guy I would like to develop potentially. Hardison has a lot of talent. Those are the guys I would rather be on your practice squad, like the super talented. Like he has crazy arm talent. Hardison. He definitely has, his downsides, but he has some crazy physical talent that I wouldn't mind taking the chance on to develop. But yeah, I think we should keep 2 QBs this year. Agreed. We need to acquire Jalen Hyatt to corner the market on Jalen's. I actually like Jalen Hyatt, but we already have too many receivers. I do live in Tennessee, so I've seen Jalen Hyatt play a decent amount. I would live to have Ryan Tannehill, RT, not 17. Is Jalen Waddle a top 10 receiver? Yes. Skyler is too reckless with the ball, in my opinion. I agree. I mean, I don't want to hate on Skyler too much because he is, like when he played snaps, he was a 7th round rookie. And some people put some like crazy expectations on him. But yeah, I think I've seen enough personally where it's like, if they keep him, I understand. But if they try to get him to the practice squad, I think that's the ideal spot for him. But if he gets picked up, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Exactly. Plus, other teams are only going to want to keep QBs on the 53 as well, who's grabbing Skyler, automatically making him their number 2. I don't think many teams, if any. Yeah, I actually think. I think there's like I think it's a higher chance he wouldn't get picked up. Like right away. He could have at some point in the season, but I would say like 75% chance. I think he would actually probably clear. But we'll see. It depends how he looks in preseason too, because I think preseason is such a big thing for like those initial waivers, because a lot of those like scouts are studying the preseason to see like, oh, who should we pick up? But yeah. There's a lot of issues between all of our DVs and Fangio, unfortunately. Yeah, I think and I think you saw a lot of communication issues on the back end. That was kind of a big problem for the team last year, was communications. So I think communication and discipline is very important for this team's success this year. So, and I think that's probably where Poyer brings his biggest impact to the team. Bonner making the 53. I think I have Bonner making the 53. Yeah. Joe, right now I have Bonner at 50-50 chance. That's fair. I think I probably lean like more on the Bonner side, makes it side, but I wouldn't say it's 100%. Just depends. Do you think Storm Duck has a chance to make the squad? I would love to have a Duck and a Waddle on the team. Yeah, I think it's an outside chance right now, as it is most of the time with most of the UDFAs. But I think when you look at how the Dolphins have added UDFAs in the past, a lot of the times the guys that they've given like guaranteed money to and like bigger contracts in UDFAs, those guys have actually made the roster a decent amount of the times, and they gave Storm Duck one of those contracts. So I do think out of the UDFAs, Storm Duck has a decent chance. Like comparatively to those guys. I would guess no right now, but you never know with the UDFAs. Plus his film wasn't that bad either. Waddle is top 25, not top 10. He has potential to be elite, but isn't there yet. Personally, I disagree. I understand people not having him top 10 for sure, but I think, I've seen enough in his first 3 years. I saw enough in his first 2 years to call him top 10. That guy's absolutely legit. I think if Tyreek Hill was not on this team, Waddle might lead the league in receiving yards within this system under McDaniel. But since Tyreek Hill's on the team, I think the fact Waddle puts up the numbers he still puts up with Tyreek getting the numbers he's putting up is still insane. But to be fair, this the receivers in this league is stacked. So that's why the receiver variance of like how people perceive that position is crazy, because that it's one of the stronger positions in the league. I don't think this is going to be a big UDFC season for us. Yeah, I kind of agree. Like compared to years past, there was a lot more open spots for UDFAs. I do think after really looking at the roster and like trying to, do the numbers, do the countdown, look at guys who I think are guaranteed to make the team and guys who are like good chance. I don't think there's as many UDFA spots this year. I think there's maybe like one, and it's would be like a safety if they didn't add one, but they still might add a safety, and that would make UDFA's chances go down pretty nicely, because they're not even guaranteed without them adding a safety. Great work, brother. Thank you, FinHub. How worried would you be if Sealer went down? That would be like dinner with no salt. No, that's good. That's good. I would be. How worried? It depends. Well, if it was like a year-long thing, like he was out for the season, I think that'd be a big loss for us. I do think that is a position they see as something they can like scheme up. So I still think it would definitely hurt the team. It would just have to be an even bigger rotation to get, good reps out of people, and have to be really on the coaching staff, on Anthony Weaver, to, create those pressures without Sealer. But I do think that would hurt us pretty bad. I don't think it would be the end of the world though. The list of receivers who put up godlike numbers under Mike's offense is endless. I don't know. I think it's less to do with. Here's my point with Waddle. I think if you made Mike Waddle the number one receiver on any team, not even just the Dolphins, just if he was the number one receiver on any team, and he just needed to have a quarterback who could potentially throw him the ball. It doesn't have to be that good of a quarterback. He would still put up insane numbers. And it's less about numbers for me, because I'm a film guy and I watch the film, and Waddle is absolutely cooking people out there. There are some things he needs to work on. I do think his ball skills overall, catching with his hands, I think sometimes he jumps too much at the catch point, but he is so explosive. I think he's one of the hardest receivers in the league to cover. I think it's just the reason people don't have him top 10 is because he doesn't maybe put up the craziest numbers because of Tyreek. But I think if Tyreek wasn't on the team, Waddle would put up crazy numbers and everyone would guarantee have him in the top 10. But I have him in the top 10 regardless, personally. You sound and looked worried. I mean, that would suck. I'm just trying to think, like, that's the one position they probably think they could get away with, though, like scheming up pressures if Sealer did go down. It's just I don't have a lot of trust in that defensive tackle room, and I think that would definitely hurt our run defense. I think they probably would be like, okay, well, we can create pressure. We can maybe put an edge, an extra edge on the field more than usual, standing up on the inside in those obvious passing situations. They probably think they get away with that kind of stuff, but I do think that would hurt the run defense for sure. Because Sealer is a beast, and I'll probably make a video on Sealer soon. I don't know I think I'm going to do an Austin Jackson video next, just because I'm kind of just going through the whole, most of the team. I'll probably do most of the team film breakdowns before the season starts, kind of my just looking back on last year and my expectations for them next year. Who did I just do? Jordan Brooks, because I'm a big Jordan Brooks fan, one of my favorite free agent signings. But Austin Jackson will probably be next, and then I'll probably get to Sealer soon, because I think Sealer will look very good in this defense. Because the way they use stunts in Baltimore, when you watch Sealer do those stunts last year, man, he was bullying offensive linemen on stunts. Game is on the line. We need a touchdown. We are getting the KO. Who's your kick returner? Top 4 in order. Probably, since with the new kickoff rule, I'd probably lean running back. So I'd probably have Achane first because he was a good kick returner in college, anyways. Probably Achane first. Then I'd probably just do Tyreek, then Waddle, because they're absolutely ridiculous with the ball in their hands. And then fourth, I might just put Jalen right. What Waddle season do you expect? I'm kind of expecting. I actually wouldn't be surprised if Waddle led the team this year in receiving. Wouldn't surprise me. I'm expecting more of a Waddle year we saw with like the first McDaniel season. I forget what the exact numbers were, but like leading the league in like yards per catch type thing. It depends if he stays healthy, obviously, but I think Waddle's a beast. You said it. He jumps too much at the catch point and lacks strength, in my opinion. He definitely jumps at the catch point. I don't know if he lacks strength. Actually, I think for his size, he actually has pretty good strength. Like he doesn't have like elite play strength. I actually think he plays pretty tough for his size. I loved the video of Tua, Hill, and Waddle working out. Oh yeah, I love that stuff. Yeah, the one where they like, it starts with like Tua like putting out the hands and stuff, right? Yeah, I like seeing them work on stuff. I think Tua losing weight is big too. I think that might be the biggest thing. If Tua stays healthy with the weight loss, I think that's huge for him. Because I think last year he was a little stiff in the pocket. I think he needs just a little more of that quick twitch, He doesn't need to be like a big runner, but he needs to have a little more, because he has the awareness in the pocket, but I just didn't think he had the ability to get away last year. So I just need a little more pocket maneuvering out of him. Waddle, first 3 years, top 16 all time in yards, top 10 on receptions. Yeah, Waddle had I think people don't understand how ridiculous Waddle's first 3 years are. He broke the rookie reception record his rookie year, which was, honestly, that rookie year for Waddle wasn't that good because they did not use him to his best strength. They used Waddle like he was Jarvis Landry, and then he really got to showcase himself the second year. And then this last year, he fought through some injuries, which I think, hurt him at times, but he still put up good numbers, even though he still looked quite good as a player. Tua weight loss looks good. Yeah, he looks better. Lamar looks like he lost all muscle. I haven't seen what Lamar looks like. I've only read the stuff, so I'm not sure about that. But yeah, I was surprised to see how much they said Lamar had lost, because I was like, I feel like Lamar wasn't that big to begin with, at least not off the top of my head. Yeah. How many receivers start their career with 3 1,000-yard seasons? Yeah, I don't even think technically when he broke the rookie reception record, I don't even think Waddle had 1,000. I think he basically had 1,000. He was 12 yards short or some shit like that. But yeah, he basically had 3 1,000-yard seasons. And that was on the coaching staff for the reason he didn't have 1,000 yards, because they wouldn't let him run a route past 5 yards. And they wouldn't let Tua throw past 10 yards because they didn't think he could. That was just poor use of your players. That was a poor coaching staff, offensively at least. Yeah, I feel like I saw a video of him, but I wasn't paying too much attention. So I'll look at it later. I will say this though, Lamar's always been, I think, because I loved Lamar when he came out of college. I was a big Lamar fan. I'm still a big Lamar fan, but when I'm doing the draft, I've become big fans of these players. I thought people were always convinced he was going to be injured because of how much he ran, but I was like, dude, people get in pocket. QBs get injured all the time. I was like, Lamar just never gets hit. I wonder how explosive he's going to look if he's that small. It'll be interesting. As long as he can avoid hits, he's always avoided big hits. That's the biggest thing for him. Thoughts on Achane in the passing game this year? I can see a scream game with Brewer being effective. The route Bachman right in the Raiders game with Connor Wills come out to block comes to mind. That's a good point. That that angle route with the lead blocking screen. Definitely an interesting concept. The Dolphins ran it multiple times last year. I think they ran it with Achane once. It got them down to the 1 yard line, I believe. But the Ahmed one, I know you're talking about the touchdown. Definitely an interesting concept. And I think a video I will be doing um, on Achane, probably, definitely at some point before the season starts, is just him focusing on the receiving game, because I think the receiving game is where he takes the big step next season. Because some of the word we've seen in OTAs so far, because we haven't seen much, is that Achane was being used a lot as a receiver in multiple different ways. I think that's something the Jalen Wright draft pick kind of shows, which is big to me, because I really like Jalen Wright pickup. I think he can be more of a workhorse back for you. Obviously, you're still going to give Achane touches, but giving him some more of those touches in the receiving game really is enticing to me. I think he has the skill set for it, and just him and Tua getting more on the same page. I think Achane's going to have a really good year as a receiver. That's kind of where I think he takes the next step. He probably won't have the same number of yards per carry because he had ridiculous numbers last year. He'll still be a good runner, but I think the receiving game is where you see him take the next step. Yeah, I was for Lamar. Yeah, Lamar was my favorite QB in that draft, I believe. Definitely in that draft. That was like the Baker, Rosen, Josh Allen, and Darnold draft, right? Yeah, I liked Lamar the most in that one. Which Lamar and Josh Allen have been the best from, and Baker has been, not quite lived up to like first round pick or first overall status, but has been solid. And then obviously Darnold and Rosen were busts, like straight up busts. Achane 100 carries, 800 yards. Mustard 200 carries, 1,200 yards. Yeah, I think we're going to see Wright get involved a lot this year, which is, I think, overall good for the team. Yeah. Waddle's second year was ridiculous. That, like, yards per catch, he was dominant. I'm hoping to see more of that. And feeding Waddle. He looks explosive because Waddle, I feel like Waddle's had a lot of videos and he looks good, man. He's so explosive. And I love seeing, like, in the videos, he's catching more with his hands, I feel like, than I've seen in the past, which is always good. But man, that guy is explosive. Also, and maybe I'm a bias towards Waddle because I was a big Waddle fan pre-draft too. Like some of the players on the Dolphins that I'm like, I feel like almost extra biased towards are the guys that I loved pre-draft. So it was like, I loved them before they were even Dolphins, Like Achane, I loved Achane. Loved Waddle. I love Jalen, Phillips. Big fans of those guys. I like to see Achane more carries than Mostert. Yeah. I don't know if he'll have... Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Wright has a lot of carries too, like with them. I think it'll be pretty even. I think we'll just see Achane more involved with the receiving game. I don't know who'll end up with more carries. I think, that depends on injuries and stuff like that. But... I do think the team is better when Achane is getting the ball. So I agree with that. He was like that lone bright spot in that the Ravens game last year. What's going on with the Tua deal? I mean, what everyone's been saying, it's like they think it's going to get done eventually. So we'll see. I mean, clearly it's just coming down. I think it just comes down to how they want to structure the contract. I feel like, the Dolphins are probably willing to pay whatever it is yearly, or at least close to it. I feel like it just comes down to how they want to structure it. That's like the big thing. I like Wright's inside runs. So do I, yes. He actually didn't run outside zone like at all at Tennessee. That's what I'm excited to see the most with Jalen Wright, how he looks on the outside zone runs and his potential as a receiver, because he was not used like as a receiver pretty much at all at Tennessee either. So we'll see how that kind of... if he's used more there in Miami like that. Nice. Going for like an hour. 5:55. Okay. I think pretty good. Pretty solid stream. I'll probably stream, Monday or Tuesday. So unless anyone has any final things they want to talk about, I think that was pretty good. I don't know what we'll talk about next time. I don't know. Sometimes I just make the titles and then we talk about that for a while and then we just start talking about other stuff too. This is basically just to talk Dolphins and then go into different stuff each week. What do you think of Tua? I'm a fan of Tua. I know people are divisive on Tua overall, but I think when it comes down to it, he's the quarterback of this team. There's not really an upgrade that you can make for this specific team. He's kind of like that ideal quarterback for the McDaniel system, at least for what they're running. And I think that's kind of what matters. So thanks, Jason. Appreciate you guys coming in here. I will see you guys, Monday or Tuesday, whatever's next. And film breakdown. I'll probably have an Austin Jackson film breakdown on